Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, glad to see you again, students. Today we are going to study about the material in second language acquisition. And today's topic is about school of thought in second language acquisition. Well, let me share the PPT. There are some school of thoughts in second language acquisition. There are structural linguistics and behavioral psychology, generative linguistics and cognitive psychology, constructivism, a multidisciplinary approach. And then we are also going to talk about the school of thought in second language acquisition in 19th century of language teaching and language teaching in 20th century. Okay, let's talk first about the next, the structural linguistics and behavioral psychology. These are the experts, the experts on this thought, Leonard Bloomfield, Edward Sapir, Charles Hawkins, and Charles Rice. They are the pioneers of the thought on positivism and structuralism. They make the observation of human language by investigating the publicly observable response, and also describe language, and identify the structural characteristics of the language. That's why a long time ago, because of this thought, so the practice of language teaching was different from the practice of language teaching nowadays, because they have the, the basis for the practice. Understand how the language is acquired in a certain way, and then come to the conclusion that in that way also the language should be taught. Jadi seperti itu, bagaimana bahasa ini diajarkan, itu tergantung bagaimana pemahaman tentang proses yang terjadi. Karena itu pada sebelum tahun 70-an itu pembelajaran bahasa asing itu dilakukan menggunakan dasar pemikiran ini. Nah, dasar pemikiran ini nanti kita akan terus jelaskan pada pertemuan-pertemuan berikutnya. And then the next school of thought is generative linguistics and cognitive psychology. So the experts are Ferdinand de Saussure and also Noam Chomsky. And Ferdinand de Saussure give us the concepts of parole and langue. And Noam Chomsky gives the concepts about performance and competence. So they give us the insight that it's very important to distinguish between the outwardly observable aspects of language and the hidden levels of meaning and thought that give birth to and generate observable linguistic performance. So it's based on the cognitive psychologies that meaning, understanding, and knowing were significant data for psychological study, trying to discover psychological principle of organization and function. So far, we focus on something which is observable. Someone is able to use the language but actually these experts give us the insight that there must be something important more than the performance. Yeah, there is what we call the insight. Yeah, the you know, the knowledge that someone know, the knowledge that someone have. Yeah, in order to have the good performance. Okay, next are Vygotsky and Piaget, yeah? With the concept of constructivism. It is a multidisciplinary approach. Yeah? We have a very a famous concept proposed by Vygotsky here, yeah, which is called ZPD, or zone proximal development. So Vygotsky here believes that there is a distance between learners' existing developmental state and their potential development. So someone, yeah, must have the potential, yeah, in learning things that they have, yeah. So things that they would have, would acquire as a knowledge, yeah, which is there is one level, yeah, above his or her level, yeah. So there is a zone proximal development that learners may have. Yeah. So the task of teaching, yeah, especially um, to draw, yeah, to draw the learners to reach the potential here. Yeah. So coming up to the next level. Yeah. So it's something which is possible to happen. Yeah. And this one is famous with the concepts of social constructivism. A child cannot yet do alone, but could do with the assistance of more competent peers or adults. That's why it's very important, yeah, as the assistant of the learners, yeah, the one who has more competencies, yeah. In that way, the learners here or the child would develop, yeah, because he would get the potential that he or she has, yeah. The level above his or her existing level. Yeah. And this is a bit similar to Piaget theory, yeah, about the stages of development, setting a precondition or readiness for learning. So for Piaget here, he focused on the individual, yeah, while Vygotsky here more social constructivism, yeah. But Piaget here believed that individual cognitive development is relatively solitary act. Biological timetables and stages of development is basic social interaction with to trigger the development. So first of all is the interaction in oneself, yeah. So an individual must develop in their own, yeah, and they have the stages of the development, and because of the existing knowledge, so the learners would progress, yeah, would progress. Okay. So these are the summary of the school of thought in second language acquisition. So long time ago in, you know, 1900, yeah, to 1940s, 1950s, yeah. So the dominant thought, yeah, was by structural linguistics and behavioral psychology, yeah. So the concepts, the important concepts that we have here is describing the language, based on the surface characteristic of the language, For example, the language has subject, verb, and then we have noun, the characteristic of noun, So the description of the language was conducted so widely at that time, It's based on the observable performance, and it was done using scientific method, and then it's empiricism also, it's based on the experiences, and it's still talking about surface structure, and learning should be conducted in behavioral mode, So the learners are conditioned in such a way to be ready to learn, And then it's important to have the reinforcement, ada penguatan-penguatan, pengulangan-pengulangan, kemudian pembentukan kebiasaan. Nah, ini biasanya yang dilakukan pada pembelajaran yang berbasis structural linguistics dan behavioral psychology. And then, as it's developing, the thought was developing because the teaching using these concepts, was not very successful. There were so many questions should be answered and could not be answered using this school of thought. So it was developing, and the next we have generative linguistic and cognitive psychology, and some of the thought or concepts, discussed very widely, or generative linguistics. So it's not only about the surface structure, but actually from a certain thought we can generate so many sentences, so many forms. We're going to talk about this later. And then the idea of acquisition, acquisition, innateness, Jadi ini tidak hanya sebuah pembelajaran, tetapi ada yang disebut dengan pemerolehan. Kemudian ada innateness, bahwa manusia itu punya potensi, potensi bawaan sejak lahir untuk memiliki kapasitas menggunakan bahasa. And we have also the concept of interlanguage. Actually, when someone is trying to acquire the second language, so they are actually having a continuum development, from the first to the second, not directly get the acquire the second language, but we have the stages of the development. So when someone is in the process of learning the second language, and then they are using the language, actually they are, using the interlanguage. And then the systematicity, universal grammar, competence, and deep structure. So we have surface structure and we have also deep structure. And then that's why when we are teaching, so the focus is not improving the performance, but, developing the students' competence. And the next is about constructivism. The concepts here, interactive discourse. It's a wider. The discussion about the language process, acquisition process is getting developed. In this case, the interaction is very important, whether interaction with oneself and interaction with others. Yeah? So we have the interactive discourse, sociocultural variables, cooperative language, discovery learning, constructions of meaning, and interlanguage variability. Yeah. So now you have to, have familiar. Yeah, you have to be familiar with this concept first, because later we are going to talk more about this. Yeah. Well, let's try to relate that with language teaching. Yeah. So, for example, GTM or grammar translation method, yeah, was developed late in the 19th century. Yeah. So this is the first method which was developed for teaching language, teaching a foreign language. Yeah. So we have some characteristics. These are the characteristics why the language teaching was conducted in this way. It's because they based on a certain thought in psychology and also learning, how human learn. Well, for example, for GTM, yeah, even though it's also people think that GTM here was not based on a certain theories, yeah, because it was thought like Latin was taught at the time, yeah. So the class taught in mother tongue, little use of the second language, much vocabulary taught in the form of list of isolated words, elaborate explanation of intricacies of grammar, reading of difficult classical texts began early, texts treated as exercises in grammatical analysis, and occasional drills and exercise in translating sentence from first language to second language. Little or no attention to pronunciation. So in this case, this is the characteristics of grammar translation method. Yeah. And then why it was conducted in that way, because it really depends on the development of the school of thought. Yeah. And okay, we have some method here which we're developing. Yeah, we have also the ALM, audio lingual method, yeah, and direct method, yeah, constructivism, and communicative language teaching. So all of the methods provided here actually develop in based on the principles, yeah. When you are applying the direct method, which are really different from audiolingual method, because you have different principles and concepts, yeah, about the process of teaching and how language is acquired or learned. Yeah? And until now, there are so many approaches in language teaching. It is developing, and it really depends on the school of thought, yeah, which are also developing. Yeah. Well, I think that's all for our material. I think we are going to talk more about this, yeah, and then try to understand more about the second language acquisition theory, which are useful for us for the practice of language teaching. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.